Masoud, welcome back. So excited to have you on the again on the Aaron Werner podcast, and you and I get to chat a bunch, which I am incredibly grateful for, because whenever I can just be around genius, I just try to absorb the rays of sunlight that are coming out of you.
Must be all your other podcasts.
Not at all. The what I like about you is that you're forward thinking. You think outside the box, and you're the way your brain works doesn't allow barriers to be barriers. I kind of think of it like the video games where there's a wall there, but then you can walk through the wall, right? And I was always the kid playing the game that was like, there's a wall, can't go through it, got to figure out a way around it. And you were like my buddies who were like, no, just if we keep pushing on the wall, at one of these points we just walk through the wall. And it's impressive. Yeah.
That's fun.
So the reason I invited you back, and I'll have you introduce yourself real quick for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, is we were at the Gateway Tour in Southern California that the Vision Source helps put on. You and Chris Wolf are the keynote speakers at that meeting. And you phrased this whole technology AI path adventure that we're on in a unique way. And so I wanted to explore that a little bit more, because I don't think we had the time at that meeting. There was so much going on to really dive into it. But before we get into to that part of it, introduce yourself to the world.
Okay, great. Yeah. My name is Masoud Nafey. Now, I started my career as an optometrist. What I wanted to do, I wanted to take care of people. And somehow, magically, my life turned into being an innovator, building tech, those types of things. But when I think back as to how I even went down that path, it's really around, I wanted to solve problems that nobody wanted to solve. And I knew it was impactful to me as a practitioner, but most importantly, what I cared most about, my patients. And so then I realized that, oh man, if I'm doing this, I have to do it. And so, started building out EHR, PM systems, telehealth systems way before people were ready for it. And then even dabbling in some other things. And, and I spent the last 5 years of my career building tech and outside of eye care. And I realized that I just needed to come back, and the reason actually I was motivated to go outside of eye care is because I wanted to work on bleeding edge technology, like innovation at its truest level. And so, but then I realized this was the industry, this was the career, this was the place where I earned my wings, and it gave me my wings. So I owe it to my profession, my colleagues, my industry to come back and try to help us move it forward too. So that's why I'm back too.
I love it. And I love what you said, that not just solving problems, but you like to solve problems that nobody else wants to solve. Before we hit record, we were chatting about the should bird, SHOULD, that flies around and lives in our worlds, that squawks, things should be like this, or things should be like that, or somebody should do this, right? And you're the guy, and that says, hey, if not me, then who's going to do it? And so let's tackle that seemingly bigger problem that we can't tackle, that doesn't have an answer, and you figure out how to do it. So how do you when you see a problem like that, how do you attack that problem?
Oh boy. I mean, first I want to see what the problem is in its truest form, right? A lot of times we talk about a problem, but then the real question is, and a lot of product people would agree, it's what's the real problem you're trying to solve for, and what's the true source of the issue? And then once you figure that out, you go, well, any technologist would say, of course we can solve it with technology. Yeah. It's not a matter of feasibility. It's a matter of resources, time, energy, money, those types of things, right? And so that's always the hard part. And that usually is what restricts us. And in our industry, we also have a lot of big players that don't always want to work together to do what's best for maybe the patient at the end of the day, or even the practitioners who serve those patients. And then some do, right? So it's not everybody, but then you go, all right, how do I make this a win-win-win? So that means patient, provider, and whoever that third player or entity is or entities are, that's the hard part. It's not a what's the problem, here's the solution, technology can solve it. It's really about having the nuanced understanding of how to make that work in our industry, make the business model work, and you get everyone to kind of give you the keys to make it work at a scale. And that's the hard part, right? Because we have to convince the practitioners. We got to make sure we show the value proposition to the patient, to the providers, to the businesses. And if all three work, you got that win-win-win, then I think it's all possible. But I always go through that model. I kind of look at all three.
Mm-hmm. I don't just recommend Peak Pro to my patients. I use it daily, and so does my whole family. Honestly, it's one of those rare products my wife and daughters all love. So much so they actually fight over who stole the tea tree cleanser, the peptide cream, or even the hyaluronic acid. I had no idea this would be the case when I introduced them to the Peak Pro products. But I've learned they're a great company to work with, and their lineup covers everything from daily eyelid hygiene to deep hydration. I highly recommend checking them out. We've got a special affiliate link in the show notes, and use code Warner for 25% off. The Myopia Collective. CooperVision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. Yeah, I like that. It's and comparing it to what we do in practice, right? So first understanding the problem so you're not treating the symptom. And that's often harder, I think, than we make it sound, right? Yeah. Really digging through all the different layers of symptoms to try to find the true problem. And but then that win-win-win is really hard. And I'd argue a simple example of that is anytime I try to bring in new technology into the practice, a new piece of equipment, might win for me because I'm excited to, put my credit card down and buy a new toy. Might win for the patients. At least I've articulated and convinced myself that the new technology is a win for the patients. But if I tell my staff that they have to learn a whole new process and procedure, that's a short-term loss. And so I've got to be able to figure out how to show the what's in it for them. Or maybe I get excited and they get excited because, we can make more profit, but now a patient has to spend more money and it's not always a win for them. And so that triple win is, which is different than a triple bogey, but that triple win is is really tough to achieve. And I think that, if you don't think about that from the front end, it's really hard to achieve on the back end.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that die if that's not really planned out in advance.
Yep. No, very cool. So let's dive into this this AI world that we're facing, and I'll be honest, I can't stand the term AI because I think that it's overused and misunderstood. At least I misunderstood it, and probably still do to some degree. But like anything new, there's a whole lot of fear. And a fear from from the executive level and the professional level of, now I got to learn something new and it's going to make my life harder. And can I just keep seeing patients how I always saw them because it's worked for the last 20 years? Why can't it work for the next 20? From a staff perspective, an employee perspective, they're afraid that their jobs are all gone. Except for one who thinks they're going to just sit at home and, drink their food out of a cup and get a universal income check. This is going to be the best thing in the world, right? Machines are finally taking over and I can just sit and watch TV all day. And then there's lots of what I'll call parlor tricks with AI. Here, make an image and that person has 6 fingers, or I'm going to rewrite an email with ChatGPT, which is helpful, makes me sound nice, but it's much more than all of this. So from a just high level overview of what is AI, how do you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like, well, first of all, AI is software. And it's, I think that's very important, fundamental understanding of AI. It's software. And not all technology problems can be solved by AI. So not every technology problem AI has an answer for. It could be just software can have an answer for it. So, I hear a lot of people these days, because it's a buzzword, say, I want to build an agentic solution that could do this, this, and that. My first question is, does it need to be an agentic solution? Can it just be a regular software solution? What is it about the agent that's so enticing to you? So, but I kind of digress there. When a machine can learn, reason, and problem solve, that machine is now artificially intelligent. So that's really what defines an AI platform, that it can learn, reason, and problem solve. So then the next question is, well, do I need it to learn, reason, and problem solve, or do I just need it to identify a pattern and based on the pattern, always do A, always do B, always do C? That's not AI. Software has been doing that for a long time. If you needed to go down, if it does this, go do option A, and you teach a machine to do that. But if it comes back and it doesn't work, I want you to never go down option A again and always go to option B. You have a machine that has the ability to learn, reason, and problem solve. That then is something that requires some form of machine learning. And then, of course, there's a lot of subcategories within there. But yeah, that's kind of how I explain it.
So very cool. And the machine learning. So who's teaching the machine?
Well, a lot of times it's the human in the loop, right? So our feedback teaches software. You think about companies like OpenAI. OpenAI has ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a free version. And the reason it has a free version, it's not free to them. Costs are not free to them. Every time we use it as the free version, they're accumulating costs and paying for it. But what do they get in return? They get learning. And their model gets more intelligent over time. And of course, the paid versions, you get the better models and the more intelligent, faster, more accurate models. And in those scenarios, they're still learning from us. So a lot of times machines learn from us. Sometimes machines learn from just kind of roadblocks that they run into. But the best experience comes from humans.
So we're still a piece of it, at least for now.
We've always been a piece of it. And I actually think we're going to be a piece of it for a long time. Now we're going to get to a point where these models and these, machines are as intelligent, if not more intelligent than us. And that's going to happen. But okay, then so what? Who's going to use it? It's not us.
Yep. We still need to figure it out. And what I've found, that at least how I use it more lately now, is just really helping me analyze large data sets and finding insights that I probably would have found on my own, but over days worth of analyzing, not 30 seconds or a minute worth of analyzing. And what's interesting is that I found that giving it an ask really is just the beginning, that it turns into a conversation. And I politely tell the paid version of chat that I use, that it's wrong lots of times. No, that's not what I wanted. right? So maybe it was me asking the question wrong, maybe it was it misinterpreting the wrong, but I found that it's much more of a conversation trying to refine what I'm looking for than you just go do something and bring me back the results. Is that a common way to use it? Am I using it wrong?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's usually how, and honestly, the best form of these tools are going to be the conversational ways of using it, right? Like my normal natural language, and you respond in a normal natural way that I can understand. That's how technology adoption increases with the use of AI. But that's also your comment led to this point. Prompts need to be engineered in a certain way to get the actual outcome you want or output that you want right the first time. So what you're doing is you're basically going through a constant iteration of, nah, I didn't mean that, or yeah, good job on that, but not this other piece. And you're basically learning how to, people who start to master prompt engineering, they just get to the point faster the first time, but still it's an iterative process. So, and that's what you actually probably realized, even or didn't subconsciously, you're doing it. Your prompts are getting better every time you use it because you know its limitations, how it thinks, and how just clear you need to be with this thing on what you want it to do, and more importantly, what you don't want it to do.
Yeah, I've learned there's a lot of parallels between talking to chat and asking it for stuff, and then talking to my teenagers and asking them to do things. Simplicity and clarity is paramount, although my teenagers don't respond to me being nice and saying things like please and thank you as much as Chad does.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's I always say this, and you've heard me talk, and I go, talk to it like it's a baby, because as simple and clear as you can be, the more likely it'll understand what you're trying to get at.
Yep. I've also found too that I need to know where I want to go when I'm driving this. If we just get in and start playing, sometimes it'll take me places that just are rabbit holes that might be fun, but I get zero value out of it. That I ultimately have to have a question that needs answering, or a destination we're trying to go together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so what was really interesting during your presentation is you started talking about what jobs, so not people, because people are valuable, but what jobs and what roles are going to be affected by AI and which ones are not. And you put it in a way that just made it super simple. And because I've heard lots of other people talk about it and challenge, whether this person's role is at risk or not, or how it's going to be affected. And you pretty much summed it down to one simple question. So I'm going to let you kind of share that, how you view, whether my job's at risk or not with AI, at least today.
Well, everything I speak about, I've learned somewhere else. These aren't really my original thoughts, but kind of how I summarize it is, if it requires a brain, AI can do it. If it requires hands, probably can't. And the other things I think about is, if it's conversational, like a customer support rep, AI can do it pretty well. And it's getting better. Every day it's getting better. And, if it requires human to human, AI can't do it. And that's just really kind of how I break it down. Thank goodness we have hands at work. Thank goodness we're a human being. It can never be a human being. It's a soulless machine. We can do those things, and we can have and relate at a level. AI can solve problems for us, and it's really good at solving one task at a time. And if it does that, that's really helpful for us. Like you said, something that would have taken you forever just took you seconds, and you got what you need. You are taking those data pieces or the learnings from that, and you're applying it to this complex brain that you have that applies all these other factors too, brings it all together and makes a decision. That's you. AI is really good at doing maybe all of those things separately today. And then you need something even more complex, a super complex machine that can bring all of those insights and then bring it together, marry it, boom, and then come up with an answer. But that's why all of us who have those tools and have the ability to use those tools at our discretion, we're going to be much more advanced than our same counterpart that doesn't have the ability to use those tools.
Yep. And I love that visual of, can you touch, like, what do you need your hands for? Can you touch somebody? I can't do an exam without touching somebody.
Yeah.
You can't. And there's lots of really cool innovations that can do a virtual refraction. That the slit lamps can take recordings of things, but they're just not the same as that physical exam that I think is important. And it's certainly, from a doctor-patient relationship, there's a big difference between an empathy that comes from a speaker and an empathy that comes from a hand on the shoulder when you're talking to someone.
Well, you nailed it right there, right? It's the empathetic piece, the thing that requires human to human. Now, when I think about what we were taught in optometry school, Aaron, was we were taught, here's how we collect data. Then after we collect the data, which is a lot of our time is spent on that, here's how we analyze it. Here's how we diagnose and create treatment plans from it.
Yep.
And here's how we communicate it to our patient, which was actually a critical part of what makes good doctors, bad doctors, yep. Right? So then we go, okay, we've been taught all of that. Do we really enjoy every piece of that? Let's be honest, we do not. Would we rather be the empathetic doctors that we want to be and let data collection happen elsewhere? Sure. As long as it takes care of our patient, because that's what we really care about.
Yep.
So I believe whether it's physical or it's digital, right? And there's a lot of things that are phygital now. It's actually a term, right? Physical and digital. So it doesn't matter as long as we get the right results and ultimately I communicate it to my patient. If we think about it, why do we go to our doctors today? Even us, we're patients too. We're not going because of, it could be subjective. But I will say one thing that we're all looking for is a human being that we trust,
yep.
that could tell me what's really going on with the problem that I came to his or her door with. And that's it. Everything else that happens, it's fine. But there's a human being in that room that I know I trust. And whatever he or she tells me, I will take that and I will do something with that. That's actually our sustainable competitive advantage as doctors. Yep. That relationship that AI can never take away from us. The generations of family members that we have seen, all of those things, everything else, as much as we like to believe, that can't be replaced, that's this, that's that. Whether it is the slit lamp or the refraction, all that, everything there will be an answer for all of that. But there will never be an answer for what I just mentioned.
Nope, not at all. And it reminds me of a conversation I have early. I get fourth-year students that rotate through the practice, yep. And I tell them that their entire time in school, they've been taught 1 + 1 = 2. And 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, because that's how we have to test. You can't throw in other variables. I said, however, in the real world, you never get 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. You get 1 + 1 plus all sorts of craziness, and you've got to figure out the answer that you can't tell. And they look at me like I've got 3 heads, and I say, hey, open angle glaucoma patient, recently diagnosed, you're going to put them on a prostaglandin analog, right? And they go, yeah. I said, okay, what happens if they don't have hands? What happens if they've had a stroke and now they don't have dexterity, right? What happens if
That's right.
They go, well, I sent them for surgery. Great. They have huge anxiety to being in an OR, right? And because they lost somebody, and there's all these other factors that you can't put on a standardized test because humans aren't standardized. You've got to figure out these other, that's the problem you have to figure out. Those are the unique factors. And if I can have something help me analyze and collect the data on the standard parts, now I can spend more time focusing on the human in front of me. Ideally, the overall interaction is less time, but my time being a doctor, being a human with another human is increased. I think I become a better doctor.
No doubt you will. No doubt. And you know what? AI and all of these tools, technology in general, they're going to give us all the pieces to the puzzle, and we're the only ones that can see the full picture.
Yep. I also want something to help me right before lunch and in that 5:45 patient, right? When I'm ready to be done, so I consistently give that my full attention that I need to. Because again, I'm human, right? And so as much as I can standardize the data collection and the analysis,
Yeah.
again, the better care I can give, because I don't have to spend brain cells focusing on that part. I can spend the energy focusing on the individual I have in front of me.
And that energy, we just talked about an example of one patient.
Yep.
Think about what happens to that energy at the end of your day.
Oh, I know exactly what happens to it.
Yeah. This idea of, you think of, this decision-making fatigue, this analyzing fatigue, all these things. If we can do less of that and just do more of handling that patient and taking care of them to the best of our ability, we'll be able to actually sustain it for a longer period of time for the day. Now add that to your week. Now add that to your month and years as a professional. That's not enticing to you?
Oh, it's last time I went to a museum, and it dawned on me that the coolest person in the museum was the curator who was giving us the tour. They themselves didn't make a single piece of the art, but they gave us the experience that none of the artists gave us.
Incredible.
And so I'm hoping that with all this technology and innovation and support, that's the role that my team in the office and I will be able to play through healthcare, as being the curator that guides patients through the healthcare system and navigates all the nonsense, because of my tech trying to get a prior auth, me trying to call surgeons and trying to get somebody scheduled in, data collecting. It's a waste of resources, quite frankly. And it's not giving the care that we need. So to have something else do that better and consistently, and I'm not sure we're completely there yet. Well, I know we're not completely there yet, but having something else do that consistently. And then on the front end on treatments, because Lord knows I've got, every rep knocking on our door when something just gets approved.
Of course you do.
Yes, I do. And yeah. And some of the innovations are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them I think they just did because they did. Now I've got to recoup R&D, if we're being honest. And not everything works the same in every physician's hands. And so if I could look at what tools are give the best outcomes in my hands with my patients, now I can really start to understand when to apply which tool, which treatment to which patient for the best outcome. Not because it was newest, not because it was on formulary, but because the data shows that here's what works best given these parameters.
I mean, you hit on some important points on everything you just said, right? Like, in order for technology to be helpful at scale, we need to learn from all of our experienced doctors. How do we do that? Oh, we have to have access to data at scale. Like, that doesn't exist today. So then we have to have partners and vendors to work together. That rarely happens today. Everyone works within their own four walls. And so, this is something that I think about, is the power of groups, right? The power of numbers. And you can only truly find real patterns and trends, which is what AI is really good at identifying, when you have enough data. Or else you're going to get biased information off of 3 or 4 locations that all work in rural, the southern part of Texas or something, right? Like, it's a very small demographic of maybe a certain type of people or this and that. Like, the data is biased, which means it's not clean. It's not going to give you the output you want, that you can actually use that across the nation. So those are the types of things I think are important conversations. And another thing you hit on, convenience. Convenience will always win. If we don't believe it, then ask us how Amazon turned into as big of a company as it did.
Yep.
Amazonian consumerism is real. Amazonian consumerism is why our whole lives have changed. Like, I don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. I can just get that stuff to my house. I love not wasting 30 minutes there, personally, especially me. But now you go, is healthcare delivery, the way we do it today, convenient?
No, not at all.
There's so much opportunity. And here's what, whoever takes that opportunity will win. They will win, because convenience always wins. So then the question becomes, how do we make that convenient the convenience a part of our practices.
Yeah.
And we have to be honest and open about that. How do I make every optometrist who's listening to this should say, I don't care if they're an optometrist or not, every healthcare practitioner or every business owner should say, how can I every day make my business more convenient for my customers? If they don't, they won't exist. I guarantee you.
Yep. And that's really hard for small businesses because we see how the sausage is being made and we see the inconveniences on our side.
Yep.
And that's a tough thing to get past, but I fully agree with you. It was funny. I was consulting with an office who was very adamant that they are the Nordstrom's model of delivering eye care.
Oh.
And I said, I love it. Right. They're like, yeah, we are easy to do business with. We are, patient first, customer first. And somebody brought back in a pair of glasses that they had bought the day before and they didn't like them for whatever reason, wanted to turn them back in. Oh, you would have thought that somebody walked in and just called that, their baby ugly and offended their grandma. It was a all sales, final, nothing. And I said, what happened to Nordstrom's? Well, you don't understand the sunk cost in this and how much it cost me. And I said, but what about Nordstrom's? And I think that until something's pointed out to us, or we've tried that experiment, we don't know how difficult we are to do business with because in our own mind, it makes sense. And so if you've never bought a pair of glasses from your office, try it. I did. I was disappointed in the experience. And so we looked to revamp it. How easy are we to get through? What's our fee structure look like? What's just how hard is it to make an appointment with us? How hard is it to get a call back from a doctor? Do you need to get a doctor? How hard is it to get a copy of your prescription? You had to sign for it 10 times to say that you were going to give it to you, but how hard is it to get it? And so I completely agree with you. It's that ease of business, which I believe people are willing to pay for too. I don't think it means cheap. I think it means convenient and value.
I pay for convenience every day.
Yeah.
And I know when I shop online from brick and mortar stores, retailers, I'm paying more per product. I know that. And I actually can, when I do the math, and I'm analytical at times, I pay like sometimes 30, 40, it depends on the cart size, sometimes $60 more than I would have in person. But I go, but it would have taken me an hour. There's some gas there, there's some distance. Maybe it makes sense for me. I don't know. Also, I have kids that are young and it's like, they drive me nuts. So there's all of that. So then I go, all right, it's worth it. Now, every person has a right to make that decision for themselves. So does every patient. And there will be patients who make the convenient decision every day because they lead busy lives or they have a lot going on in their life or they're just unwell. Hello, we're in healthcare. Yeah. So that's super important too. And I think, yes, as a small business owner, you hit another important point. Do we have all the resources to be able to compete with businesses 10x our size? And the answer is a lot of times no. But then we start looking at solutions that are out there that give us that capability, the ability to compete with businesses 10x our size. That is the way we partner with folks. That should be how we decide which vendors to work with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. How we can compete and go back. I want to go back to the grocery store example for a minute because I think it's important that we realize that we don't get to determine the perceived value to customers and patients. They do, because I love going to the grocery store. Okay. And I love going to the grocery store because donuts are my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
And if I stop at a donut store, I've just lost, right? I'm like, this is not. But if I go grocery shopping and the bakery has a donut, one, I can eat it before I get home. And so my wife didn't see that I had my donut. But I also don't have little kids, and putting little kids into a car seat is a pain and then dragging them through. And so my needs are different. Plus it's half a mile down the road. Right. So I think that you've got to frame your offering. You've got to frame your experience based upon a wide range of individuals and give them options and give them opportunities. Because if I was in your shoes and my kids were little and I had the chance to do it, the grocery store cart would have been showing up at my house every other day. Right? But I'm at a different place now. And so I get to, go have my cheat donut, and hopefully Lindsay doesn't listen to this and find out. But, but what are those needs that people want to feel? The other thing that I think is interesting from a business owner standpoint is resources are finite, cash is finite, and I want to help my team compete and not just have a job, but have a profession, which means I've got to pay them appropriately. And what I've seen too with first virtual assistants and now, AI tools is that I can keep my staff percentage of overhead or staff percentage of revenue at a finite fixed position. So 25%, meaning 25 cents on every dollar that we bring goes to staff. But if I outsource some of those non-physical, I don't need to touch you, I don't need hands resources, well, now I've got more dollars to spend and invest on my people that are with me in the office to either get more of them or pay them more or spend money to invest in their professional development. And so I look at it as just shifting resources so that I can continue to take care of everything that needs to get taken care of, but I'm just doing it in a much more strategic way.
Well, you're thinking like a true CEO, right? And that's a missed opportunity by some people, but also I'm sure your staff absolutely love that, right? I mean, we spend a majority of our time working.
Mm-hmm.
So, we think about our lives until we finally retire and hopefully live out long years after that. But the fact that you do this in a way, you consciously do this in a way to then reinvest that back to the people that run your business with you and for you, that's important. I think that's often overlooked, but you think about all of these tools, and that's why let's go back to the comment you made at the beginning. There are certain people that believe their jobs will be gone because of technology. I would ask every person who believes that, every staff member that believes that in practice, and say, do you believe you don't bring any value being who you are? You really make this as impersonal as can be for every patient?
Yeah.
That you can be replaced by a soulless machine? Maybe that's the problem. Right? It's an interesting way to kind of turn it around and say, how can that be? How can that be? So, I don't know. There's an opportunity there.
A huge opportunity, which I think that whenever there's a change, whenever there's a, that the point where something happens, we can often look back and say, I made a decision and that was the difference, right? And COVID for us was a big thing. We changed a lot in the office. I wish COVID would have never happened, but the way we do business is significantly better because of it and the changes that we made, because that was a defining point in how we increase flows, look at efficiencies, and whatnot, right? We were forced to do it. And I saw the Gateway Tour and the message that you and Chris delivered and the workshop and the challenges that you put out as one of those defining moments as well, for those who lean in, because you have to answer some interesting questions, some self-reflective questions, and you're not going to close your doors tomorrow, but what does the future look like? What's your role in that future? What's your role in delivering healthcare? Not just from a business standpoint, but for those who are paying attention and engaged on an individual standpoint to your point. What role do I deliver in the practice? If it's just, I pull an insurance, I put a number on a piece of paper and I move it over here. Well, I can do that for a lot less and probably more accurately and more efficiently, right? I'm not saying that you're not valuable. I'm saying, what else do you bring to the table that you may not recognize because you see your job as just a to do. What are you doing instead? How are you taking that patient through the practice? How are you welcoming them in? How are you providing a different experience? And answering that question, I think, is very powerful, again, to those who are willing to face it and have that conversation.
Yeah. Self-reflection is always the key, which is actually, when we do those workshops and we start having folks who've never used maybe some of these large language models or these tools, and one of the things we put them through is an exercise that says, hey, why won't you go see what AI says about your practice? Right? And where are they pulling this information from? Data. Where's the data coming from? Reddit, maybe if I'm on Reddit. I don't know if a doctor
Yeah.
said or the patient said something about me on Reddit, or you have Google reviews, you have Yelp, you have so all these. If you actually summarize the perception around you, or the perception around your associate doctor, or the perception around your practice, it'd be very interesting to see what that all gets summarized in with AI. Thank you, AI, for processing all that data all at once. What is the perception around me? And then, do I believe in a future state, less patients will Google and more patients will actually use large language models to ask these questions? Absolutely. I do it all the time now.
Yeah.
So then, that's important information for you to know about your business. So that's, back to your point, self-reflection at many levels.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like that. I like starting with the, hey, what is the, what are the positive? What do people like about us? So we ease into it really, really nicely out of the gate. But it's funny you bring that up. There's way too much personally about me online, because I host a podcast on a weekly basis,
right?
And I get feedback on a weekly basis. But what's interesting is I've interacted with chat enough that it now knows me, and it can make things sound like me. It can make things adjust. I've asked it to coach me from how am I speaking on these? How am I presenting different ideas? And it's scary how accurate it is. If I'm honest, I probably knew the answers. I just was not willing to hear it and see it in writing. But having that sort of unemotional, unfiltered feedback is very helpful. And at the practice level, definitely, hey, what do people like about us, and what opportunities do we have to improve, so that we're not building it for what I want. I'm building it for what my patients and customers need.
Mm-hmm. And this is it's really finding patterns. That's what it's doing. It's recognizing patterns around your tone, your tendencies, your mannerisms, your sentiment around certain topics. And then it's picking up on that, and of course giving you what you like to hear, which is the best sales tool ever. But you start to think about that, and so now you take that and you go, where would I use AI for my practice? Oh, conversational AI, and pick up the phone call for me when my patients call, and here's the tone, tendency, mannerisms, sensitivities, sentiment I want this bot to portray to my patients, and it is aligned with my mission, my vision, and what we're here for. So that's interesting, and that's standardizes a way for you to communicate with your patients when your office is closed.
Yep, closed, and even when you're open. What I like about what you said, standardize. Completely unemotional, not passing judgment. But if you picture walking into a Walmart, you know exactly the experience you're going to have. I can picture the person greeting me in a blue vest. I know exactly what the environment's going to smell like. I know exactly what it's going to feel like walking across that floor, right? it. Best Buy, same thing. And Disney, same thing. If you can give a repeatable standard experience, you're meeting expectations because somebody has them. The challenge with a lot of small businesses is our experiences can shift depending on the personnel we have, because it's, one or two people in the office can make a big difference, positive or negative. And so being able to standardize that, so you're always putting your core values, your identity first and foremost, it's really helpful. Plus it gets rid of a lot of the stuff that the people in the office aren't good at and don't like. You hire people that are good people, but they don't like being on the phone typically. They don't like doing tasks that aren't people-oriented tasks.
That's right.
So if we can, just help everybody excel at what they excel at, I think we're going to, give that elevated experience. In the last few minutes, for those who are new to this whole AI thing and are saying, great, you guys talked about it, that sounded good. What would you recommend that they do to get started, get prepared? What are our next steps? Certainly if you're able to attend a Gateway meeting, and I'll put the link in the show notes. It's open to everybody. But if you can attend that, great. But what advice do you give people on just how to start into this world?
I stay start dabbling, doing a little bit of something, right? I think about one of the reasons people don't get started with tools that are accessible to them, like literally. ChatGPT's free, Gemini's free, you have Claude, that's free. They have free versions. You don't have to do the paid version. Paid version's worth it if you use it regularly. $20 a month is the standard cost across the platforms. But I tell people, start dabbling because you don't have to be an expert to start using it. And I think fear is often driven from ignorance. You just don't know. So you kind of just are scared of it. If you start dabbling, you will find, and this is what happens with, and I'm proud of this, is everyone who comes to these gateway tour meetings, they walk away and they go, okay, it's really not that scary. No, it's not. You know what its capabilities are. You know where its limitations are. You can start to see how you might be able to use these tools. But ultimately, it doesn't really solve a lot of our true problems in our practice. It might be able to give you a marketing strategy. It might be able to give you a strategy on, hey, I'm struggling with employee retention. What can I do differently? And they'll give you some information. Or how do I build a better culture around my business and give it a full description around what your business is today and what you do today. Those are things that it can do for you. Then you go, but can it actually pick up the phone for me? Can it actually do this in my EHR or do the, no, those things require, software vendors that will solve these problems for us. In those scenarios, what I tell people is start to know which questions to ask, right? How does your software work? Where does the data come from? How does your machine learn? All of these important questions. How do you guys deal with HIPAA, privacy concerns? Will I ever have to worry about that by going with you as a vendor? These are very important questions to even just know what questions to ask when you start actually evaluating which tools and which vendors to partner with to protect your practice and your patients. And I think that's also important. What do you do with that data? Do you learn off of my data? These are things, well, do you learn from it? That's okay. It's not always a problem. But do you learn for it for what? To help me and make this machine more intelligent for me? All right, that's okay. I'm all right with that. So those are the types of things that I wish we had more time, but those are important topics, I think, for people to actually start just to ask, and then also just start dabbling. Start
dabbling. And I would add one more is just share your experience. You mentioned community earlier on, and none of us are going to be able to know everything, but you'll find something that I don't. I'll find something that you don't. I'll run into a problem that you may have come across, or you'll help me solve because you're looking at it from a different perspective. So, I'm very much a part of the Vision Source community. We built the Book Nerds community. We built the podcast community. Whatever community you're in, I think it's important to engage in that community. And it's certainly helpful to give advice. I think it's even more helpful to say, hey guys, I'm up against a challenge. Can you help me? Because especially in the optometric community, we're trained to fix problems. And so if somebody comes with a problem, I've got a bunch of buddies who it's in their DNA to solve it and to help solve it and figure it out.
That's right. Beautiful.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Masoud, I have no doubt that we'll bring you back. Certainly, there's lots of conversation around here. So as long as you're willing to make time for us, we more than appreciate it.
It's an honor and a privilege every time. Thank you.
Thank you.